Black Hair by Marvin Bowser is more than a photography exhibit. Black Hair is a vibe. Black Hair is an experience. Black Hair is a celebration. Black Hair is sharing information, history, Black culture, our customs, and our hair.
Black hair is my love letter to Black people and Black culture. I use hair really as a lens to access that. So when you go through the exhibition, you'll see Black people from all walks of life doing all kinds of things, because that's what we do. And you'll see their lovely hair.
Prominent Washington, D.C. photographer Marvin Bowser has a keen eye for beauty in all its majestic forms. But when he turned his lens to the subject of Black hair, this most recent work resonated with the artist in a way even he did not expect.
I have a process I go through when I want to develop a theme for a show. It's a lot of introspection, and I try things out, and like Black culture came out, and Black art, and Black beauty, Black love. And when the Black hair hit, a shiver went through my body, that's it. I didn't focus on like one aspect of Black people's hair, because as I did this work, I discovered that everybody's hair is their hair. And how they choose to wear it and express themselves or protect themselves or show their art is all about who they are as people. And that's a wonderful thing and a thing to be celebrated.
The photography in this room tonight is simply extraordinary. These photos capture the life of people, their ability to express themselves in a way that we don't know what was going on in their lives at this time.
There is a story behind each one of those pieces. So take some time and go through the show when you see it.
The artist noticed my natural hair at all these events I was going to and asked me to attend an event. And at that event, he photographed me, and now I come to this event and see myself on the wall.
It was a big production effort, and it was fantastic. I mean, I knew that was going to be successful when I went to the studio early, and everybody else was already there. They're committed, excited about it. It was just beautiful. It was beautiful how much we did in that amount of time. And the results are there, right?
The Black Hair exhibit was a source of inspiration, too, for the men and women who were key contributors.
This was, I think, my first time using paper to create makeup looks. And so once it all came together, I was thoroughly pleased with myself, especially because I waited till, the last days to make a decision. I had tons of ideas, but that final day came down and I was like, okay, lock in on something. And that was what I decided to go with, and I'm pleased with it.
This was one of my favorite looks. It's a mixture of jewelry from different countries. So this symbol right here is a brass crap from Ghana, the mask. This one is from Kenya, and this one is from Tanzania, and this one is from Ethiopia. So that combination of the cultural aspect of it, this was my favorite look.
What inspired me was, when it comes down to our culture, I believe in bringing out our roots. So I wanted to go with kind of like a tribal theme, and we've always told a story throughout our hair. So that's what actually inspired me to create some of these artworks tonight.
I think all these images tell a story, right, as they are. And when I went back through the content I created and I reviewed it, and I get to this piece that is, no kidding, a picture about hair with no face, but this is still a portrait. And I think there's so much strength in the ways like she sets her shoulders, and then you get all the texture of the hair and the curls and all that. it's just really powerful.
The power and impact of black hair is far-reaching, going beyond style to contributing significantly to an expression of identity as well as influencing how black people are sometimes viewed by society at large. Creator Marvin Bowser understands that impact, so he gathered other creators to talk about black hair beyond the photos.
And part of the photography exhibition, Black Hair, I'm creating 2 panels. One on styling and one on health as it relates to black hair. So welcome to the styling panel. One of the things with this, so many people are doing so much good work as it relates to black hair that we couldn't do something that somebody else has already done. We couldn't do something that one of us has already seen. So the challenge was, and we challenged each other to come up with something new, right?
And that part, so definitely summed it up, okay? I went in circles about what I wanted to do. I think just because I'm used to playing so many hats or holding so many hats and playing so many parts and projects, the thoughts and the ideas just come rushing. And so deciding what to do for this project was kind of a task. And so, yeah, like you said, the night before, I finally I threw everything out. I was like, okay, you know what? I sat down in my studio and I started like looking around to see like what I could use that I just had already like on standby. And I looked to my left, looked to my right, and I saw a stack of construction paper, and there was just a bunch of different colors. I'm like, we're using paper.
I didn't know that was paper on the people's faces in the pictures. Like, I didn't know that was paper. I was like looking for the glass. I'm like, those invisible glasses? You know, like, and so like seeing the art and how you guys do it, it makes me feel, it feels ancestral. Like, it felt like this is how our ancestors express themselves.
The mission for me when I created these looks, I wanted to bring out the inner beauty, because I feel like a lot of times when you see folks, sometimes you may see something in them that they may not see in themselves. So I like to show people that, hey, you have that it factor, and I like it to reflect throughout the hair.
I had to see the hairstyle, I had to see the artist's creativity, I had to see
the
model's creativity, the model, their features, and what they can handle and what they cannot, because jewelry can be very individualistic as well. So not everybody can carry a certain jewelry. It also depends on attitude. So if you put the wrong jewelry on somebody, it will look awkward in photography. So when we're having the meetings, I couldn't really picture the looks, especially with the makeup. I was trying to figure it out. But when I saw, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, you know? And I've been involved with so many different shoots and in some movies that it's gone viral, but this was different too. Like, this was a different spin to it. So it really came together really well, because, I mean, the intricacy of the hair and, you know, and the clothes and the colors, everything just came together. So then, you know, if you see this kind of hairstyle, then you're like, okay, this is so much, but you have to make it more. You know, you have to use bone, you have to kind of bring the look out. So it was just a mixture of stacking and seeing the person's individuality and then matching the jewelry.
For me, I'm into the science of hair and the health of hair. And I feel like, personally, more women need to be educated when it comes down to the chemicals, to be honest, because a lot of these chemicals that are in relaxers are causing diseases. High blood pressure, fibroids, I mean, I can name them for days, and I study that. And so I feel like when there's more hairstylists who are educating their clients when it comes down to these fabulous styles and also the products that we're using for our hair, things can shift a little bit. And for me personally, I feel like we should, as hairstylists, continue to educate our clients, men and women, when it comes down to the products, because yes, the relaxers are fabulous. Don't get me wrong, I've worn relaxers myself, but I feel like in our culture and in our community, these chemicals are killing us. And then when you, again, study this, chemicals, products, I might create my own products also, they are intentionally doing these things to us.
I'm glad that you brought that up because we all know that there is a large lawsuit about relaxers and cancer and all the harmful effects that relaxer does. And it's very important to educate the consumer on these products. There are various opportunities to straighten their hair, relax in a more natural way. Now, our hair is made up of protein, the natural essence of our hair, right? And with that being said, there has to be certain types of balances when it comes to protein. And that balance keeps the hair from breaking. It keeps the hair from shedding. It also keeps the hair to have that natural feel to it that gives that hair that body that we love when it comes to natural hair. So I agree with you when it comes to products and making sure that you're well aware. And I always educate my clients on what's best for their hair and being able to have a broad spectrum of products within the band that works for all hair types, because I work with all hair types and nationalities when it comes to people, because a lot of misconception is that people is what's different about hair when it's really the hair texture, whether it's straight, curly, coily, and dense at any level, fine, medium, and thick. So these are the things that's important when it comes to hair, healthy hair. And as professionals, a lot of times we don't have that professional that speaks to the health and the quality of hair. And with all the things that's happening in society and how things are downgraded, there are concerns that we have as a people when it comes to straightening our hair and making sure we're using the products that will be a healthier approach.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, with this project, my past careers, I was program manager, system engineer. Everything was very prescribed. And part of the things I wanted to do with this project was be very organic and let things happen, which is sometimes like terrifying when you're not sure. But then you let it work and trust and magic can happen, right? And that's what happens with working with you great people. So again, the experience was really amazing for me. So thank you for that. So Mr. Smith, you're a traveling barber. What kind of styles are people asking for? And talk to the father-son things too, please.
All right. So when kids are growing up, their father is their big, they start to line themselves up with their father. So what the father is getting, the son is getting. Like my son, I cut his hair when he was young, and he's 5 years old. And every day he say, "Daddy, can you do the locks in my hair?" But his hair this long, so he's not ready yet. But I think it's a true definition, like I say, of ancestry. Like how our kids look at us is what they want to become. So we are like living proofs of them. Mm-hmm. And in that, at Department of Parks and Recreation, where we professionalize play, and we meet the kids where they at, that's something that I personally push through DPR, is, showcasing fathers and the great work that fathers are doing, because they're really molding our youth, and these are our future people. So we have Daddy and Me. We have Daddy. We just had like a Daddy and Me cook. I know this is off subject, but we had a Daddy and Me cooking series that was very inspirational. And but with Cape Town, it's a 501c3 nonprofit, and we use the attraction of beauty and hair to push local initiatives in the communities and governments. And we try to build esteem within our youth, our seniors, when they wake up and look in the mirror.
By providing services at no cost to them?
No cost. So the one thing is, whoever sits in the chair, they cannot pay you a dime. So you're either volunteering your service and your time, and then the people are receiving that and they're taking that home with them.
And going back to that, the importance of having a positive self-image.
Yes.
So very important.
It's very, very, very important, because like you say, what you see is kind of determines your spirit for the day. Like when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you say, "Oh God, I feel good," and I hate to tie like how our kids are out here in the streets. When someone gets a fresh haircut or a fresh hairstyle, no one's looking to fight, no one's looking to hate. They looking like, "Hey, miss me with that today." So that's what we kind of try to provide.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So Vanetta, we did some these Afro-futuristic high style looks. People being super expressive with their hair, and from looks like this to some everyday looks. So real quick, what are people asking for when they come to see you now? What are the trends?
It's an interesting question that you asked, what people are asking of me now. When you look around the room of this project and how creative and amazing it is, it's a lot different for your everyday woman. Mm-hmm. It's a lot different. What I love about expression when it comes to hair, which is different, is that we have a lot more freedom now than we've had ever before in African American women. There was a time with women in our culture that we wore our hair straight because it was the status quo to be in corporate America. Now what they're asking for is that freedom with their look, with more tamed hairstyles to define their curl patterns and to be able to wear their hair at different lengths, different colors, and different textures.
The significance that hair holds for both Black women and men is well documented. It appears in news stories. It's the subject of books, television shows, and kitchen table conversations. So the question is, what's your Black hair story?
My hair story is that I cut all my hair off. I'm a hair artist here in Washington, D.C. Stopped relaxing my hair and decided to go natural.
Kind of grew as a person as my hair grew, and it kind of just represents my journey as a person.
It's time to just be yourself, and that's what I did, and this is what I have.
And people that have really thick, really great hair, really they're the people with the best hair because they still have hair.
My hair is fun, it's art, and so I just enjoy being free. And me, I consider it to be my crown, and I'm very proud of it.
What is your Black hair story?
So we all have a hair story. Not a Black woman alive doesn't have a hair story. And my hair story is at the intersection of Madam C.J. Walker and many other parts of my life. Madam C.J. Walker was my great-great-grandmother. I grew up in a household where my mother was vice president of the Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company, and my father was president of another Black hair care company, Summit Laboratories. So we went to hair shows on summer vacations. But my parents wanted me to follow my own dream, so I became a journalist and a writer. But I have ended up being Madam C.J. Walker's biographer. And along the way, what I have done is learned about the history of hair and the stories that all of us have to tell, whether it's mothers trying to comb their little girl's hair, whether it's us trying to figure out whether we're going to do the big chop. So I know what it means to have a hair story and to fight with your daddy about having an afro in the 1960s when he didn't think that was a good idea. But I prevailed. So I just want to start with you, Tekla. What is your most memorable hair story?
You know, growing up in Southern Africa, which is Zimbabwe and South Africa, my parents are from two different countries. I always had an afro. And when I finally came to the United States at the age of 18, I saw every Black girl had their hair straightened. It was those days that nappy hair was not in, and I'm so happy that it's back in now. And I went to college in Texas, and I started for the first time having a perm. And I maintained that until last year when I went to the doctor, and I was told that I had cancer. And that whole thing about hair didn't matter anymore. And I was doing weaves and all that you can think of that Black hair was for. But I found myself not even caring about straightening my hair anymore and just wear it natural. And so that was my turning point. At that time, you know, everything changes. The way you think about things that you think is important is not the same way after you hear those three words. You start thinking about, okay, am I going to lose it all? I started imagining myself on my phone, just trying to see if I lose all my hair, how do I look bald? But thank goodness I didn't have to go through all that. I lost some hair, but not too much hair. So that's my...
So Ashley.
Yes.
Your hair story.
Yes. So I just remember growing up as a Black girl, obviously in the South, and there's a lot of emphasis put on hair. And hair represents a lot. And as a young child, you don't really invest a lot in there because you don't really get it to a certain extent. You know, why are we placing so much emphasis on our hair, and why does my hair have so much, why is my hair defining me in so many different ways? So I was always the kid that did the things that you would did not expect your daughter to do. I grew up a little more like a tomboy. So all the girls in my family were debutantes. I wasn't, right? Like, you know, they all wore dresses. I didn't. So I just remember this time I was a runner, and I was running on my way the summer before I was going off to college, and decided it was so hot in Texas, as you can imagine, it's like 100 degrees, 100% humidity. And I was like, I'm done with this hair. And I was wearing it straight. I went to the barber, decided I was gonna shave it all off, and shaved it all off. And I went home, and my dad was like, I've always wanted a daughter, and now I have a son. Like, what happened to my daughter? And for me, it was an expression of liberation. And after that moment, I started to see my hair as an accessory to who I am, not as what defines who I am. Because I remember, you know, because I had short hair at the time, you know, and I was in undergrad, and sisters were not wearing naturals then. They were not wearing short hair. So people made assumptions about my sexuality. Like, all of this derived from just simply hair. So nevertheless, I decided to cut it off, and I was liberated after that moment. I wore natural. I showed up to Capitol Hill as a Black girl, didn't know anybody, with this big afro, pushed back. And of course, all my grandmother's like, you're showing all of our roots. I can't believe you're exposing us this way, right? And I just had this big afro, and I was living with my aunt Baltimore, and she was like, that's not what boys like. She turned on The Price is Right. She's like, look at that sister with that straight hair. That's what they like. You're on Capitol Hill. That's what you should look like. And I just rejected that. And it goes all the way back to my roots of always rejecting it. And I was the only girl on Capitol Hill wearing an afro. Fast forward later, in the White House working for Barack Obama, sat down with this young lady who wanted mentoring, and all she could talk about was her hair. And she had a fro. And I was like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, you're in the White House. Like, there's only 2 of us, 5 of us. Like, lean into your work. That's just an accessory. Don't over-invest in it. But the reality is she's right in some respects. People are losing their job because of how they want to wear their hair. People are being discriminated against now, Black people all over the globe because of their hair. So nevertheless, I mean, we can go on. I would love to explore some of these topics, but that's my hair story. I've always been a rebel. I always saw it as an accessory and felt like it just was an accessory to me and not something that defined me.
It's very interesting to me that it's cyclical, because I'm 71, and so having an afro in high school and in college, that was the first Afro revolution, and then the pendulum was swinging back, and then you had to go through that again. So we want to make sure that future generations do not have to have this dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned generations, because I think I have, and we all have, an evolutionary hair story, right? So it started one place and now it's here. And there's not one particular moment, but again, a series of moments that have happened where I first began to realize that my hair was a living organism, that it is talking. Right? So when you look in the mirror and you want that big chop to happen, it's not just this random thing that's happening. Through the somatic trauma healing work, I'm beginning to understand that there's talking going on. I'm releasing something that is attached to some ancestral moment. That work has been really, really impactful, I think, in my life. It's freed me up. In the mental health space, which is where I work now, I'm the executive director of the Boris Henson Foundation, which you mentioned earlier. We got a lot of stories that come through from folk talking about the whys behind our decisions. We forget that there's a whole ancestral track behind us, and that we're still sort of dealing with and through, but there's an appreciation I think I have in my life now where my decisions aren't just made for me, but I'm releasing something for those who have come behind me. So that's my story. It's still going. I'm not afraid of the voices that I hear anymore. I'm not afraid that people are labeling the voices something, but I know what they are for me when it's attached to hair specifically too. So that's my series of stories.
Right. And you're right, it absolutely is a journey, that what you want at 18, you may want lots of extensions and turquoise hair. That may not be what you want at 40, what you want at 60.
And it's attached to something not just about the way you look.
Right.
So mine is very similar to Ashley's, in that I was not necessarily a rebel, so different kind of basis. But in high school, I had a relaxer. My mom relaxed my hair, I think, in junior high because I'm terribly, painfully tender-headed, and she just got sick of the bacchanal associated with doing my hair. And so in high school, I toyed around with the idea of going natural, and this was well before it was the norm. And I decided to, at the very end of school, I finally cut off my perm and I had like a curly fro. And, but I wanted to wear my hair short. And friends of mine, I asked friends, what do you think? And friends were like, oh, I don't think you should wear your hair short. You know, people like length. And I was just kind of like, okay. So I wore my hair longer. And all through my first year of college, I wore twists and fros and things like that. And at the end of the summer, I just said, you know, this is what I want to do. And I picked my hair out as big as I could. I told my mom, take it in, because I'm cutting it off later. And that evening, I came home from work and went to my neighbor who was a barber and had him cut everything off. And I remember my mom kind of talking to me about it, saying, well, you might want to wear makeup, you might want to wear big earrings, because she anticipated that I might feel self-conscious about my hair being short. And I had none of that. Like, I remember just being like, this is the most awesome thing. And to still feel so feminine, to still feel so much like me without any of that was amazing. It was an incredible experience. And then, of course, like going through the revolution, kind of watching my peers now coming into this appreciation for natural hair in my young adulthood was awesome. I had locks after that for 12 years, and I cut them off after I had my son. And when I cut them off, I realized I had to relearn how to style my hair, my like free hair. And going to the stores, now there was, aisles of hair products. Back when I started, it was Lisa Price, Carol's daughter, at the African Arts Fair in Brooklyn selling her stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there was nothing in the stores. It was an amazing experience to see the wealth of information that was available, YouTube videos, all the things that helped me to kind of relearn how to do this. And it was a beautiful thing, just appreciating how far we've come and how accessible the information is now. Hair loss is not uncommon amongst women, period.
We're going to start with you on this next series of questions. Because you do have a medical background, dermatology, nurse practitioner, and you are really helping people deal with some of the physical reasons that they're losing hair. Talk to us about what the biggest issues that Black women have with hair loss and what the solutions may be.
In the Black community, there are certain types of hair loss that we deal with disproportionately. And many of them are directly related to our hairstyling practices. And one of the major issues for us, as I'm sure we all know, is traction, right? And even the discussions around what really is a protective style versus what isn't. A lot of people consider protection just covering your hair or doing something that allows you to not have to comb or brush it regularly. But if there's a lot of traction applied, it still is putting stress on the hair that can ultimately end in loss. And so there's a lot of relearning that has to happen, a lot of investigation, a lot of kind of come to Jesus moments, right? About like the products and the practices that we all have to kind of go through to try to either prevent or to head off what's already started with regard to hair loss.
And some of that, even if we know how to do our own hair, our sisters' hair may be different. Our daughters, if we have more than one daughter, each one may have different hair because we are the combination of all of our ancestors. So when you're talking about dealing with the external, Tracy is talking about the internal with the Boris Henson Foundation and with HBCUs. So what are you finding when you talk, especially with young women, about self-image and hair?
I think there's a lot of shadow work that's gonna have to be done, and shadow work is simply looking back to see where the root is coming from for why you feel the way you feel about your hair. And we've all grown up in different households where hair was very important, and messaging that may have come from your parents about your hair, your sister, your brother, your neighborhood friends, was important to you. And so you've held on to that all of these years. And so now when you're addressing your hair, you're looking for the three things that every human needs is safety, belonging, and dignity. Safety, belonging, and dignity. We didn't grow up with a whole lot of that in the Black community. Not in our homes, not when we walk outside of our homes, not when we go into different spaces where we're not welcome, right? And so how can I find safety, belonging, and dignity? Well, if my hair looked like that person's hair, I might be safe. Folk aren't gonna make fun of me, or I might get that job or whatever it is. If in fact, my hair does look like that other person's, I belong somewhere. Remember, we were pulled away from tribal, right, connections, so I'm always looking for belonging. I belong. And then it's that dignity too. So when I walk into a space, I'll be respected because my hair is doing that. So it's just attached to so many things that I think we're dealing with internally, that we sort of have to go down that ladder of, okay, let me look in this file cabinet to see where I first started remembering I don't look nice here when I do my hair like this or that. What messages was I getting in those experiences that helped me shape what I think beauty is? But it's really something internally going on, and we all deal with it.
As somebody who deals with people who are in the spotlight, who are judged if they, blink the wrong way, but you have experienced, I know you began to talk about it, what happens with people's jobs or how they're perceived. You worked in the White House. Michelle Obama was, whatever hairstyle she had was judged. After she left the White House, she decided to free herself. But I'm just curious what you've observed about, both in the political sphere, which is always in the spotlight, but just in general for professional women.
From the vice president to Pelosi and even Michelle Obama, they were very cognizant of their hair for this reason, because there's judgment placed on your hair. With Speaker Pelosi, she was getting a blowout every morning. We're like briefing her at 6:30 a.m. while she's getting her hair blown out. That's serious, right? Same with the vice president. We had to schedule far in advance so that we had the right crew and everything was in order. So anyway, I say all that to say that they're very cognizant of it, because it's still a very real thing. Now that I've transitioned to television, I met with an executive and she said, Ashley, short hair doesn't translate well on television. And I was like, well, I'm not sure what you mean by that, because I think Tamron Hall looks stunning. Do you know what I mean? What do Robin Roberts looked best when she had short hair. What are we talking about? And then I left the meeting and I was like, I do appreciate what you said, but here's the thing. It's my hair. I'm committed to my hair. And if you don't want me on your network, that's fine. But the hair is not changing, because it is now me. And more importantly, maybe you should expand your thinking, because the audience has expanded. And then we can get into why that network is not doing well. But I just wanted to say, but nevertheless, I wanted to just say that, it's all of these things we carry going all the way back to the roots, the societal impressions and judgments on us, and we carry those with us all the way to the most powerful women in the world. You know what I mean?
So it takes a lot of conversation to get to that comprehension stage where everybody starts to appreciate the beauty and who they are naturally. And I have just taken my time and my effort, especially now more. I use the platform that my God-given platform to talk to women, to talk to young girls, whether in college they are pursuing the hospitality industry. That's one of the industries, just like television, I'm sure, where you don't find a lot of us the higher you go.
I'm curious, we never really explore the conversation of the damage we do to each other around our own Blackness. I'm curious, we never really explore the conversation of the damage we do to each other around our own Blackness. You know, I feel more judgment about my hair from Black folks, from my own family and my friends, right? Right? So I love for your perspective on that, and then how do we also get to a point of greater, I don't know what the right word is. I don't know if it's healing, because it's all trauma that we've carried that we then project on and pass on to each other, right?
Make space for grace, because we do recognize that we come from a people of suffering, right? And that our bodies are carrying that suffering in our tissues. It's not something that we just breathe one time. Now, all of it's gone. It's literally rooted in the tissues of our beings. So when we see or hear from our counterparts and somebody's saying to me, girl, that hair, take a moment and say, I wonder who's showing up here. I wonder if this is really coming from my sister here, or is this something that's traveling through for the moment? Let me take space for grace here. Allow that thing to pass on through. Because I'm here to help us repair. Not me, only me. I just mean I, in this conversation I might be having with someone, I've already made the decision that I'm on the repair side. The rupture has happened with all of us. And so more and more of us that become and step into the commitment of being about repair work, we can step back for a moment and give that space for grace. Let Lula May and all them people who, may have been pulled through the Atlantic slave trade or wherever they coming from and pissed off, don't know why. Allow that moment to happen. And then what is this moment here to teach me?
What would you tell your 12-year-old self about her hair?
I would tell her, keep that afro, maintain that self-pride. Don't listen to anybody who's telling you otherwise. Because especially growing up in the streets where I grew up, we all know about apartheid in South Africa. You're constantly reminded I'm not enough. I need to be like this. I need to be like Lucy. I need to be like this. And I come here, I went to an HBCU school at first during the times when Afro was not the norm. I was told by the people that I felt would look like me and accept me that no, it's not acceptable. So I'll tell that young person that be you, be yourself. Don't go with the wind. Just stand and be the beautiful you are, because you're created wonderfully and created and fearfully in his image, and maintain that.
No, Ashley, I think you were already there. But.
Amen to that. I don't know what more I would add to that. I mean, I think I would just tell my 12-year-old self what I tell my daughter, which is not just that you're enough. I think you're absolutely right, but to add to your point, but that the whole world knows it. And even if they don't tell you, they know it and they want it. I mean, I went to Africa, to Ghana recently, maybe 2-3 years ago. And my first time going to the continent, and I saw these, this is a little off topic, but just to prove the point, I saw these brothers, they're like 6'6", black as my jacket, lean and tall. And I was like, oh my God, you can't just be walking around the world looking this glorious. This is why they stole you. Like, are you kidding? Like, this is amazing. And Black women's hair is all of that. We are iconic. We set the standard every time. You know, so I just pray that every 12-year-old Black girl has a mom, you know, a mom and a sisterhood like these women here that are reinforcing that message. Because if we could plan it at 12, it's not an issue, you know, for us. And I think it'll really start to change society in a lot of ways.
I would tell my 12-year-old self that it's okay, and wait till you see what's gonna happen, girl. So I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't tell her to do anything differently. I know that journey was about bringing me into the space I'm in now. And if I didn't have her questioning and not being sure and being awkward, that I would not have had this evolutionary journey to get to where I am now. So I would say thank you too.
I think that it is near impossible to grow up in a place like America as a Black person and not have some question about your worth or your beauty or your value or whatever. And I think my parents did a really great job of instilling a sense of worthiness in me, but there's still always that thing. And so I think that if I were to talk to my 12-year-old self, I'd, using whatever language I was using at 12 years old, like have the conversation that kind of levels with myself, like, no, you're worthy, you're important, you're supposed to be here, but also that there's nothing to apologize for, there's nothing to ask permission for, that you don't have to shrink, you don't have to feel even the need to, and that your very being is important, it's valuable, and it is necessary.
Well, I am just blown away by this conversation with you amazing women. When Marvin Bowser put us together, he must have known there was going to be some special chemistry and magic, and wisdom and all of those things. But I think when people hear your words, they will come away with some self-acceptance and with some wisdom and with some caring and with some belief that the hair journey is a journey that's not just an external journey, but an internal journey. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.